and welcome back to another Sri Lanka vlog. I started my day with a traditional Sri Lankan breakfast at my homestay before heading off on a half-day tour to the ancient city of Polonnaruwa, which is about an hour and a half by tuktuk. It's not uncommon to see wild elephants just roaming around on the road, so we just stopped and I got to see one, and then we just continued the journey. It was quite picturesque down to Polonnaruwa. So today I've come to the second ancient kingdom of Polonnaruwa from Sigiriya, which is about an hour and a half by tuktuk, which my homestay organised for me. And definitely got my archaeology geek cap on, having studied archaeology at university, and it's honestly absolutely massive. It's massive, it's huge, and it's incredible. There are so many remaining ruins of all of the buildings that were in this ancient city, and there were so many, and it's so large that you can drive, like tuk-tuks can drive around to get around within the city. Lots of people either have a tuk-tuk or lots of people are cycling. The heat though is relentless. It's even yesterday, the Sri Lankan heat is honestly something else. I'm sweating, like dripping in sweat in this dress, but it is honestly fascinating and so interesting to see. I think comparing it to what I've studied in the ancient classical world and Western ancient archaeology, to the structures and sites I'm seeing here, it's very, very interesting. So Polonnaruwa was the second ancient capital of Sri Lanka after the destruction of Anuradhapura in 993, which was the first ancient kingdom. And this period is regarded as the golden age in Sri Lanka, and you can definitely sense this just by walking around the grounds of Polonnaruwa, because as I said, it's absolutely massive. There are so many buildings and complexes, many of which remain today, and you can just see that just by going to the complex site. So yeah, it was really, really fascinating to go and visit, and I'm really glad I made the choice and the effort to go and do it, because it is one of the main sites to see from Sigiriya. So I would definitely recommend going if you have the time and are going to Sigiriya. So this is the Hatadaj, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and it's supposedly where the sacred tooth was kept when it came to the second ancient kingdom of Polonnaruwa. I started my visit by going to the museum before I went to any of the buildings in the complex, just to give me a background and a general idea of the history and what I was actually seeing. So I would definitely recommend having a brief stop in there first, just to give you the context. The Sacred Quadrangle was probably my favourite building in Polonnaruwa, just because it had the most concentrated collection of ruins and they were quite well preserved. It was thought to have been built by King Parakramabahu to house the relic of the tooth of the Buddha, but later King Nisanka Malla replaced the tooth relic and moved it to the Hatadaj building, which is next door. And this is the same tooth relic which would eventually end up in Kandy. I am also actually very grateful to have done the 10-day silent meditation retreat back in Thailand, because I learnt so much more about Buddhism and about the temples and about life as a monk, things like that, and it's helped a lot with my understanding coming to sacred ancient sites like this here in Sri Lanka. I just have a much better understanding of everything, so it's really nice to have that background, because I know if I hadn't had that, I would have definitely had a different experience and would have needed more information to understand things. So it's really nice having come from Thailand and having come from living in the temple, coming to an ancient site like this where Buddhism was obviously the main religion, and seeing how that translates into ancient times. It's very interesting, and I'm glad to have that background knowledge. The Lankatilaka Viharaya is also one of my favourite buildings at the complex. It's absolutely massive, it's 17 metres high, and it has a 13 metre high, now headless Buddha statue, which was very impressive to see. And the last stop on my whistle-stop tour around Polonnaruwa was to Gal Vihara. This is an incredible collection of 4 massive Buddhas, each carved from one long granite slab, and they're still in perfect condition and are said to be the best examples of ancient Ceylonese sculpting, and they were really, really, really beautiful. Then I got a coconut and I headed back to Sigiriya. It's 5:15 a.m. and I've started climbing up Pidurangala rock. I'm so glad my tuktuk driver lent me his torch, which is far more powerful than my phone. Oh, am I in focus? It is already, I'm already out of breath. Lots of steps, not too difficult just yet. Most travellers to Sri Lanka will either decide to climb up Sigiriya rock, also known as Lion's Rock, or Pidurangala rock. As you all know, if you watched my previous vlog, I decided to do both, but here I'm climbing up Pidurangala rock, which is known to be a really, really, really good place to view Sigiriya rock itself. It's got the best view of it, and also it's popular amongst backpackers because it's significantly cheaper than climbing up to the top of Lion's Rock. So I decided by myself to go really early in the morning for sunrise, and my homestay family again organised the tuk-tuk and everything for me. It probably was the first time I thought, is this a good idea to be climbing up a rock in the pitch black dark by myself as a solo female traveller? But I did it anyway, and I did think, given how popular it is, it's likely that I'd bump into other travellers on the way up, and it's true, I did. Another thing to note about Pidurangala rock is that it's known to be quite a difficult climb and that it takes quite a while. I would say I was pleasantly surprised, and I didn't actually think it was as difficult as people were making it out to be and as I'd read online on articles and blog posts, but there is a bit of scrambling required. You do need to use your hands and your knees to get up, but it's not as difficult as I honestly thought it would be, and the climb up was actually a lot quicker than I expected to. But anyway, when I got up to the top of the rock, I had made friends with a lovely Swiss-German girl, Nina, who has actually moved to Portugal now, so we're still in touch. And as you can see, it's the most beautiful view of Sigiriya and of Lion's Rock. So I would, again, highly recommend doing the climb if you are physically able and if you want to. I should also note that you do have to walk through a temple on the way up, so you have to pay a fee and also cover your arms and legs and shoulders when you go through the temple, just to pay your respects. I'm now packing to leave this homestay in Sigiriya, and what I love about the fact that this is my last destination and I don't have to worry about hand luggage only or anything, it means I can just pack my backpack fully to the brim with everything rather than carrying around an extra bag, which I have been doing. I can just pack everything and not worry about having to squish everything down so tightly. So that's what I'm doing now. I've just remembered though, I've got my tripod to squish in as well, but it should be fine. I'm moving on to my next destination. I'm very tired. I was journaling this morning over breakfast and felt myself falling asleep. But my taxi is arriving, I think, in about 15 minutes. I'm almost unpacking. And then it's time to say goodbye to my first stop here in Sri Lanka, Sigiriya, which has been amazing so far. Definitely grew on me from when I arrived. So I've packed everything into my backpack, so it's looking a bit fatter. Oh, and then I have an extra bag full of just laundry and random bits and bobs I need to sort out. But then I've also got this bag with all my electronics. But this is the room. It's a bit messy now because I've stayed in it, but this is the homestay I was in. It's just very basic, but the family have been very lovely. And it's the bathroom, shower.